Welcome everyone to Built on Faith Homestead. Today, myself and Luella are out here in my in-laws' cow pasture. We are here to pick some mulberries, aren't we, sweetie? Yeah, the cows are surrounding the truck, and so Luella's a little jumpy with all the cows coming to check out the truck this morning. But there's a few mulberry trees around, and we're going to see what we can to get some berries to do something that I believe is very underutilized, and that's to make some mulberry jam. I absolutely love this stuff. It's delicious. Melissa's going to be back at the house. She's getting everything ready for canning because we didn't want to bring all the kids out here. I knew the cows was over here, and didn't want to bring all the kids. But we are going to see what we can do to get some mulberries around here. So, well, Daddy is, and I think Luella's going to sit in the truck and watch the cows, aren't you? You gonna watch your cows? Look at them smelling the truck. They're looking for feeds, what they're doing. We ain't got no feed, do we? All right, guys. Well, looking for feed, and the grass is hip high in here. Just eat the grass, huh? Yeah, silly things. All right, let's get to work. All right, guys. Well, we had to have a change of plans. The mulberry tree in the cow pasture, the berries they were like kind of black on the end of the berry, but then still green back at the back, and they didn't look very good. They didn't look like they were ripening very well. But I knew there were some more mulberry trees over here right by the tiny house. And so I told Luella, let's go over by the tiny house. I think we'll have a better chance at getting enough to make some jelly. This is part of the importance of just knowing the plants and things that are around you guys. Wherever you are right now. All of this homesteading type stuff, right? Milk animals and gardening and all that. I always like to go back to what is already growing wildly, naturally, whatever grows in Missouri by itself already, right? I want to go ahead and take those things and use those resources as well, or as much as possible. That's kind of always my first number one plan, and then start adding to and supplementing with our own animals as far as like livestock style animals and that kind of stuff goes. So right behind our tiny house just happens to be some mulberry trees. And we'll show you kind of what those look like. I should have showed you over at the cow pasture tree. I don't know why I didn't, but I'll show you guys what these trees look like, what their leaves look like, what the berries look like, because if you have mulberry trees around in your yard now, they're probably putting on some berries. And if nothing else, you can at least try them. If you don't have enough to make jelly, you can always put them on ice cream. We like doing that of an evening. It's a delicious, tasty treat. But also right behind the tiny house is a couple of walnut trees. It's already getting some walnuts on them. So this fall, we'll be able to have some wild grown walnuts right here in our own backyard. Just explore your immediate surroundings and what you can walk on and get on all by yourself. And you might be shocked what all you have around. But we'll show you guys these trees real quick. Bella, you like mulberries? Yeah.
I like to eat them raw.
You like to eat them before we ever do anything with them, don't you?
Yeah, but you can't eat them raw.
Yeah, you can eat them raw. All right, guys. So I'll show you. This is a very classic mulberry. So it's going to look just like brush, which basically they kind of are. Mulberry, I've heard people call them mulberry shrubs. They'll actually get like into big trees. Right, like that's a little bit bigger one there. Honestly, this is an area that I'd like to clean up this winter and probably cut these down just to clean this area up. However, I don't know, right? We'll have to have that discussion. Do we do that, or do we let these grow so that we continue to have this resource here? And you have to remember that what it looks like to your eyeballs is not nearly as important as what it can do for your belly, I don't think. But very classic. Here's a very classic leaf of a mulberry plant, or a mulberry tree, mulberry shrub. Give you that very classic look there. And then here, the berries themselves look a lot like blackberries. See, let me see if I can get the camera to focus in here, maybe. Lighting, something. We'll go ahead and pick it off the tree. Maybe I can do it better that way. So here is the mulberry itself. And that one's probably just a hair under ripe, but it'll work fine, especially for jelly. In fact, if I'm just eating them, I kind of like the ones with a little bit of red in them. I like the tartness. But they look very much like a blackberry. To me, I actually like them better than blackberries, and I like blackberries. You don't have the big seeds in them. To me, they're sweeter. just a smoother, good taste. But that's what you're looking for. And you guys can probably, let me see if I can give you a good look here. Let me see if I can zoom in. You guys can start to pick out all them berries that's up there. Of course, those are the ones that I won't be able to get to. I may get a ladder out just because it's kind of hard picking right now as far as berries because there's not very many low ones. I may get a ladder out, but I'm going to tell you guys something. See them ones way up there? Here's kind of how I've always felt about it and what I told my wife. A lot of times I'll leave those berries way up there for the birds because the birds do something for us. The birds eat these little berries, and in these berries are some seeds, and the birds, honestly, they poop, right? And they go out and they poop wherever they poop, and they drop that little seed right in its own little fertilizer of bird poop, and then you end up with more of these mulberry trees. So I won't rob them all. I'll leave plenty for the birds to eat, but we will get all that we can to try to make some jelly, because while I love the idea of preserving some for future generations, at the same time we need some jelly. So we're going to get to work here picking mulberries and maybe doing some swinging too, huh, sissy? Yeah. You like swinging. You gotta take a break every once in a while, huh? Papa's letting us live here, huh? It's nice of him, huh? Until we find some land someday. Good Lord willing. That's right. All right, guys. Another fascinating part about this spot is our chickens. The other place we had cows, here we got chickens. They love this little shaded area. They hang out here most of the day. And I assume they are eating any mulberries that hit the ground because I don't see any on the ground except for when we knock them off. And I'm sure they're eating them and loving them. But and it's good for them. Those mulberries would be good for them. But anyhow, we better get back to work. So, I want to show you guys the work here. I've got this limb. This limb. I got this limb bent over. And me and Lou Bug are working together, huh, baby? Yep. She's picking the lower berries. I'm picking the higher berries. And while I got the limb bent over, the limb extends way down. And while I'm picking the upper ones, she's picking the lower ones, huh, Sweet Pea? Yeah. Working together, aren't we?
Some higher ones.
And some higher ones. And knocking a few off along the way. Yeah, that would be okay. Knocking a few off along the way, but chickens got to eat. I went ahead and cut these two little mulberry trees because they were fighting us, trying to get back into where we could pick them, and these guys had no berries on them whatsoever. So we just went ahead and cut them out of our way with a hatchet. Back to work picking mulberries. So here's what we got. Not a too terrible much amount, is it, baby? But it's enough. If we can get some more, we can make some jelly. Right now we don't have enough.
Yeah, but there's a lot of this tree.
But there is a ton on this tree and a bunch of them that we can get to. And I wanted to talk about that real quick. If you get a tree, see if I can get the camera to focus here a little bit, maybe. It's not really wanting to focus on that mulberry the way I want it to. Anyway, if you can get them where it's fairly loaded down like this and easy picking, you can pick a bunch of them in a hurry. And it's not too awful long. As you can tell, we're actually at the edges of the hay barn, and this winter I want to cut these mulberry trees out for Papa, so they're not in his hay barn no more, huh?
Yeah, because he might want some, but we gotta leave some for him.
Well, yeah, I'd say he would rather us just make jelly for him and give him some jelly. You think we probably ought to, since he's letting us live here and everything?
Yeah, but
I think so.
What's that big hole?
It's just a big old rock, baby. So we're in the hay barn, actually, is what we are, which is kind of nice. We're in the shade. It's not too bad. Yeah. But we are going to stand in here and pick some mulberries. And there's some more, I think, on the other side. And we will just let you guys see what we've got left. And what we're doing is, this is actually Luella's homeschool today, isn't it, baby? We're learning how to identify mulberry trees, and I showed her what a walnut tree looks like because she kept confusing the walnut tree with the mulberry tree. So I showed her the difference in the leaves, huh? And then here in a little while, we're going to take a break and we'll record it and we'll talk about the nutrition of a mulberry, huh? All the good stuff that's in it, vitamins and minerals, because they're healthy. Does that sound good? Yeah. You got to learn something today. What are you learning so far? Anything fun? Not to be scared of cows. Yeah, not to be scared of cows. Learning how to find a mulberry tree. Doing good. Hey, doing good? You're not talking much. Are you tired? No. All right, guys, we need to get back to work. We are taking a bit of a break and sitting down and drinking some water. And Mom made some mac and cheese, and Luella was like, I'm in, and she went flying inside. So I'll go get her here in a little bit to go finish picking our mulberries. I'll show you guys kind of what we've got here in a little bit. I'm going to post a picture in this video right now. And what you've seen there was just a quick snapshot of some of the nutritional value of mulberries. They're also high in vitamin K, which will help with blood clotting if you're having like bleeding issues. Not like super high, but it's got vitamin K in it. It's got potassium in it. It's got vitamin C, vitamin E, all kinds of vitamins and minerals and things in it. It's actually really good. Also, a fun little fact, those mulberry trees I cut down that weren't putting on any berries, those little trees, I thought I had remembered when we first looked into rabbits how good mulberry leaves actually were for rabbits. And I got to looking, and sure enough, they're an excellent source, food source for your for your tame rabbits. And so, I'm not going to just waste those trees or just drag them to a brush pile. I'm going to strip the leaves off of them later and feed those leaves back to our rabbits so they got a little extra feed to help supplement our feed. I like to pull grass anyway. I've been doing that. Feed's getting high enough that I'm going to start leaving squares unmowed for a couple weeks at a time to make the pulling grass easier so that we can keep pulling grass for the rabbits. That helps supplement their feed. Excellent source of protein and those kinds of things for the rabbits. And so I don't want to waste those, and so we'll use up all of that. I'll show you guys kind of what we've got. And then, of course, my wife's going to make mulberry jelly. That'll probably be a separate video. I probably won't put that in this video. This is just going to be the picking. Another thing, since Luella's not here and I can talk about it. Guys, this has been an absolute blast, picking berries with Luella. We've been talking about the Lord and how the Lord provides these kinds of things for us if we'll just go get it, and how cool it is that the Lord gives us those things. And we've been talking about some of the things that she has. Luella struggles sometimes with fear, and we've been talking about some of those things and getting over some of her fears, and just been having a really good time picking these berries. Guys, get your kids involved, man. Get them after it, and it'll be a good time. Let's show you guys kind of what we've got now that we're taking a break. This is just an 8-quart feed bucket that Luella talked her grandma and papa into getting her down at Farm Fest. But here is a pretty good look at the berries that we have picked so far. Be kind of hard to tell just exactly how many's in there. Luella picked up the bucket while going and was talking about how heavy it is, but I'll show you. Right, it buries my finger. Here, let me try to even them out a little better. I know it's kind of hard to tell in this video just exactly how many berries are in there, but I'll bury my finger down in, and maybe that'll kind of give you. So they're about that deep. So about to that knuckle right there where my thumb is, deep in there. So we're beginning to get enough to think about making some serious jelly. But we're going to take a little break. Maybe I'm going to go in and eat a little bite. And we'll come back out and get back to picking, because there is a bunch more in that one mulberry tree. A whole bunch more. We've only picked about maybe halfway around that tree so far. So we're going to take a little break and then we'll come back to it. All right, guys. There are some more mulberries on this side of these hay barn with plenty on there. Now the lower ones the chickens have all decimated, but there's some higher ones. So we're going to get in and get them. These limbs, much like the other trees, are tender enough that you can bend them around, right? Which helps get the higher mulberries. But I do want to show you guys or talk to you guys about something about picking mulberries. that I can't really show you guys while I'm picking them much, because I can't hold my phone and pick at the same time. But these here aren't too bad. First of all, you're gonna get some purple hands. Second of all, you want to get the mulberries down low first before you start bending branches around. Why? Because mulberries, the ripe ones anyway, will just about, I mean, you just barely got to touch them a lot of times, and they will fall right off the tree. And if I don't get some of these lower ones and I come in here doing all this, I'll knock a bunch of them down, which, I mean, it's not the end of the world. Our chickens will love them, right? But it does help to make sure and get the lower ones first and then work your way in there. Any of them you think you'll brush up against, knock off, like I'll pick these over here on this side now, because once I step in here, I'll be hitting this with my back end, and so I don't want to knock them off and then lose those berries and not be able to have them to eat, right? So there, if you I wasn't videoing it very good. If you see them, man, some of them you just touch them and they come right off. Those there I didn't even really have to pull. I got there one with a leaf that I did. But it's a very easy berry to pick, and they're, like I said, they're really tender on the leaves, and so, or on the tree. So it don't take much to get them off there. So before you roughhouse them too much, make sure, I'm gonna see if it'll work on these. Yeah, see, I can just kind of knock them off. See, that one fell off. And that will get you plenty of berries that way. We're getting a pretty good mess. I'd say our 8-quart bucket is not quite half full, but it is getting there, and so it will be plenty to make some jelly. And now what we can do, a lot of these plants that I've been watching, the mulberry trees I've been watching around the house here, they've still got a lot of red berries on them too. So maybe give them a week and then check them again next week, and maybe do another picking next week. If we need some more jelly, I'll have to check with my jelly maker, known as my wife, right, to see how we're doing on jelly before we go crazy on them, because like I said, I like to save some for the critters too. But man, when you have years where you have lots of mulberries, you better pick them when you have them, because who knows what next year will bring, and who knows whether or not you'll be able to pick mulberries, or maybe this year you end up eating more than you thought you would have of the mulberry jelly, because you decide you're not buying no more grocery store jelly, and all you're going to eat is jelly you make at home. I treat jelly a lot like pickles. I don't eat a whole lot. I love a good pickle. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Good bread and butter, sweet pickle, even a good dill pickle every now and again. But if we don't make them homemade, I won't eat them much, because they're so expensive at the store. But if we've got them homemade, I will chow them down. We eat them like side dishes with our meals a lot. It's a good probiotic, right? All kinds of goodness for you, especially the dill pickles. And so jelly's a lot that way. You know, I don't eat just a whole ton of jelly. But if we have the jelly, we'll eat quite a bit of it. And these mulberries, right? So like worst case scenario, and we'll talk about this more when we can. But if it doesn't set up good, doesn't make good jelly, or I guess technically we make, I don't know. I think jam's the one we make, because we leave the pulp in it. If it just kind of ends up kind of like syrup, well, then you got syrup for pancakes or making sauces or whatever you want to make. And so it definitely comes in handy doing this stuff yourself and not having to buy $5 jars of jelly or whatever they are. I don't even know. That's just a pure guess, guys. I don't know if it's $5, $10, or $20 for a jar of jelly right now. But not having to buy that and being able to make it yourself is good. Now, you do have to buy some things. You gotta buy some sugar and pectin and those kinds of things. So it's not a complete freebie, right, in jars. But those jars are reusable. And sugar and pectin, by the time you add it all up, is a lot cheaper than buying. All right, say we make 10 jars of jelly. We won't spend $50 on 10 jars of jelly, not even close. So it'll be money saved in the long run, which is good. Also, we use these jars of jelly for trading. A lot of people that's got like rabbits and chickens, they like to trade homemade jams and jellies for that kind of stuff. And so we might use it as trade capital, if you will, for somebody that's got some of that kind of stuff. It just is handy to have around, and even if you have more of it than you're going to eat for a year, because like I said, next year maybe something weird will happen. We'll get a weird frost or something, and maybe these guys won't put out any, getting bug bit here, maybe these guys won't put out any mulberries, and or maybe we'll be really busy and not be able to pick mulberries, or maybe next year some sort of health crisis will be going on with somebody in your family, and you won't be able to take the time to pick mulberries because there's just a few week window here, and then once it closes, there's no more mulberries, right? And you got to get them while the getting's good. And so all kinds of things can happen. So don't be afraid of making way too much and just being like, well, you know, don't be afraid. I don't really need my hat in here, I don't reckon. It's pretty nice picking in the shade here. This will spoil the fella. Don't be afraid of making way too much jelly. And you may make, I don't know, 100, let's say you make 100 jars, which is a lot of jelly, right? And you're thinking, I've probably, wasted all this time and money and effort. But when you start thinking about using it for trade capital, or using it for making sauces, look at there, I got sticks in my beard. You think about making it for sauces or whatever, syrup when you make pancakes, whatever, you'll use it more that way. But then when you think about, like I said, maybe next year they don't grow. And so I know, Mom, if you're watching this, I'm going to tell on the peaches a little bit, but our peach trees, whenever I was younger, man, like 1 out of every 3 years, they would just go berserk. And man, those years that they would go berserk, it was a pain. You got tired of messing with them. But you better get while the getting's good, because it may be 2 or 3 years before you get another good peach crop here in Missouri. So those are just some things to consider. Don't give up on it, even though you're tired of doing it. If the trees are making berries and they're getting ripe and you're able to get to them before the birds do and all that kind of stuff, you better take advantage of the situation. Wanted to show you guys, these have been washed up, cleaned up, and put in a bowl. And we're going to put them in the fridge overnight so we can can them tomorrow. But here's the first little crop, and like I said, if we want to make more jelly after we make this batch, then we can talk about it. And a lot of them trees, like I said, you give them a week and they'll have another pretty good batch of berries on them. And so this is a pretty good haul. I don't know, it's hard for me to give you a good comparison at the size. So there's my hand, right? So you can kind of get an idea how big that bucket is, I guess, maybe, or that bowl. It's a pretty good size mixing bowl. Fairly deep. I mean, it'll make a pretty decent batch of jelly for us. Or actually, like I said, I think we make jam. All we do, which we'll get more into it when we make the jelly, but we wash these berries up really good and we throw them through a blender, and we make our jelly or jam or whatever out of that mash that gets made. Now, we blend them really good. I mean, it's a pretty thin juice, but we don't get rid of the pulp. We don't mind it in our jelly, and it gives us gives us more product by keeping that pulp in there. And so that's kind of why we do it that way, but you guys do it however you want to. If you wanted to make like real jelly and strain it through like a flour sack towel or a cheesecloth, then you could take the pulp and feed it back to your chickens or your hogs or something like that. But guys, once again, pay attention to the stuff that's around you. You may have a bountiful, fruitful harvest and something that you really didn't have to put much effort into. So thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you next time.